Hi, everyone. Welcome to Innovating with Influencers. Let's get our deck up. There we go. Welcome, everyone. I'm Cheryl Conti. More about me in a second. We'll let people trickle in, but while that happens, before we move on, people always like to see my posters, so there they are. Enjoy that. They say a lot without saying anything at all. I'm really excited that you're here. I've got some really great, very contemporary, hot stuff for you that I hope will make you even more powerful in your work. All right. I am going to get this party started. So, here's a little bit about me. I am Cheryl Conti. I have a lot of jobs. I am the CEO of Do Big Things. I'll explain a little more about Do Big Things in a minute. And I am also, in my spare time, the Chief Innovation Officer of the Impact Seat, which is converting to a foundation very soon that I'm excited to be helping to lead. I'm easy to find on the internet, by the way. Here's my Twitter handle, and of course, we're using the hashtag NN21. Feel free to quote me just to share with others anything that you think might be useful. And also, you can feel free to email me after this if you've got questions that we weren't able to get to, or just want to talk more, or LinkedIn. I'm very easy to find on internet. So, just a little bit about the impact seat. The impact seat's mission is to ensure that we build a world in which women, especially women of color, startup founders, can be successful. That's because diverse-led firms win. All of the studies show that diverse-led firms are more innovative, they are more productive, and they are more profitable. And you should check out how NASDAQ is actually pushing all NASDAQ listed companies to diversify their boards. And they're not doing that just for virtue signaling. They're doing that because it actually produces stronger, more profitable companies. Like, it's about the money. So, this is a quote from our founder, Barbara Clark, who is one of the most prolific investors in innovative startups that solve one of the world's biggest problems that are also women led. And she has said inclusive innovation is morally sound, produces better decisions, uses capital more efficiently, and provides better returns. So I'm really excited to be working in this time in which a lot of people are uh, working hard on economic recovery. I'm really excited to be in a position where I can help create a new economy with you, hopefully. So, my other job is Do Big Things, where I am chair and founder. Do Big Things helps progressive causes, as you can see, use the new narrative and new tech needed for the new era in which we're living today. We are women owned and women led. We have a team that is 50% people of color. And yes, that's nice. We like to say that that's nice. But we also see that as strategic. It makes us actually better at what we do. Because we reflect our audience. I won't spend a lot of time on this. You can see we do all the things and have a lot of really positive stories to tell from our work partnering with amazing people just like you. So, here's what we're going to cover today. We'll talk about why are influencers so important right now? How do you find and engage influencers? And then how do you win with influencers, both external influencers and can you cultivate in-house influencers? So we'll cover all that. We will have plenty of time for Q&A. So feel free to put your questions in the chat. So let's get started. What is an influencer? An influencer is a person that shapes the attitudes, behaviors, sentiments, actions of others online specifically. And we're in this moment where digital personalities, are the new community organizers. They are really driving the direction of both culture and politics. And they're doing that with their creativity. They are often very passionate. For some people, it's their job, it's their main source of income. For others, it is a way that they are promoting themselves or their ideas, including innovation. So let's talk about a couple of examples on both sides of the aisle. Whether you're looking at AOC or He Who Shall Not Be Named, it's very clear that digital personalities, AKA influencers, are incredibly important within the political discourse today. In fact, what I often said about our former president was that, look, he is the classic example of, he is the epitome of, an influencer, an online influencer who leveraged his online influencer and his community to reach the highest office in the land. If that doesn't convince you that influencer engagement is critically important in this time, to drive issues, to create more power and community behind the issues that are most important today, I don't know what else to tell you. Okay. And look, corporate marketers have understood this for almost a decade. uh, it's been a staple of corporate marketing practice, and corporate influencer marketing is slated to become a 5 to 10 billion dollar market in the next 5 years. There is a whole ecosystem of influencers, agencies, tech startups that have just created this cultural phenomenon, particularly among America's moms, millennials, and Zoomers, and people of color. And it's steering trends, fashions, fads, and purchasing decisions. And when you look at AOC's style, the that many people are starting to copy, or adapt. It's not just, a person, a talking head talking seriously about serious issues. What's really interesting, about, her online persona is that it's very digitally native. It's got emoji, it's got fun stickers, it has, hand-drawn illustrations, cool fonts that are colorful, and lots of selfie videos. People love straight to the camera videos. So, in a recent Halloween, not this Halloween, it hasn't happened yet, but in a recent Halloween, she actually just started up a live stream as she prepared ramen in an instant pot. And while she was just chopping up vegetables, she was talking to her community, just about her thoughts about, politics, the midterms that were coming up in 2018. So, sorry, 2020. So, I think that's important to really understand that being digitally native, really adapting your style to whatever medium, whatever mode you're in, whether it's Instagram. Instagram has its own culture, and syntax, as does Twitch or TikTok or Twitter. Making sure that you are culturally appropriate is super important and can be very powerful. So here's an example from early 2019, our last shutdown. Hopefully, we won't see another one, but in our last shutdown, four then new members of the House of Representatives, Johanna Hayes, Katie Hill, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, and one of our clients that do big things, Lauren Underwood. These representatives just chased then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell around the Capitol, trying to hand deliver a letter to him demanding that Congress end the government shutdown. And they created this narrative. They created a whole adventure, you know, just taking viewers in their community along with them while they posted videos. They had some corny Spice Girl jokes, and this actually got a lot of people looking, including Cardi B. At the time, you may remember Cardi B actually dropped, an incredibly impactful Instagram video reacting to the shutdown that went viral. It was soon remixed into a pretty banging song. If you didn't hear it, but her condemnation of the shutdown and what it was doing to everyday Americans, despite the unprintable language, clearly resonated with a wide audience. 16 million, over 16 million views, heard Cardi B. This is the example, of, an online influencer that looks different from, maybe a representative or an executive director of a nonprofit or a candidate still having impact on an issue. Why was it so impactful? Why did so many people check it out? Well, because it was an honest, authentic, just balls to the wall representation of how most Americans were feeling in that moment, just super frustrated and exasperated by an unnecessary gridlock. And it was expressed in language that everyone could grasp, just everyday language. And look, important to remember that Cardi B stepping forward probably got a lot more people paying attention to the politics of the moment than, dozens of, stuffy press release or focus grouped, statements, or carefully like worded tweets. Obviously the amazing aquamarine eyeshadow probably didn't hurt either. But what I'm trying to say is, being authentic is one of the ways in which online influencers connect with their audience. And we'll talk more about it in the engagement when we start talking about how to engage influencers. But I think an important thing to understand is that any online influencer you're going to talk to is going to remix your message. They're not just going to take your message verbatim because it's probably super boring, just to be honest. Look, they have, someone, like all of these folks that I just talked about, they have more followers than you. There's something they're doing right, and they know what's going to work with their audience. And it's important to really listen and learn from that. You might notice that a lot of the people I just talked about are all women, and women over index in terms of both just sheer number of accounts and usage on social media platforms. This is actually from Pew Internet. .org. Great stats there around how people are using the internet in all sorts of demographics. Definitely recommended it. It's free, but given that women are so prevalent and powerful on social media, it shouldn't be a surprise that the rise in female candidates, for example, seeking to motivate diverse and younger voters, would use social media to persuade them. Generally speaking, almost always, the majority of the top 10 most popular Instagram influencers are women, and women use the platform more than men. That's not true of every platform. If you talk about a platform like Twitch, that actually skews a little bit more male. TikTok is actually pretty even. It does depend, but I do think it's important to, understand how powerful women in particularly, especially since a lot of nonprofits, if you're a nonprofit listening or even a candidate, it's possible that your audience currently that you're able to talk to skews female. But talking in general about, progressives and social media, the fact is that, our audiences, the people we're trying to mobilize and motivate and, get support from in terms of fundraising or action, they're actually using social media for political participation. They're actually ahead of a lot of the people trying to communicate with them. They understand that social media is critically important for civic minded activities. And this is just, another example. These are some more stats just to show that even more so than conservatives, even though they might bark louder online, there are actually more people um, who online who consider themselves on the left, who are encouraging others to take action. on issues that are important to them, or taking part in an issue, taking part in a group that shares an interest in a cause, looking for information about rallies and protests, using hashtags, at a double the rate, almost more than double the rate of conservatives. This is critical. Your people are ready. Are you actually partnering with them to get your message further and farther? So just talking about why influencers are important in this moment. Look, we've got a lot of challenges ahead of us. America has a lot of work to do on all of these and more. And influencers, especially when you look at things like, paid leave, or hashtag Me Too, or the movement for Black Lives has been a client of ours as well. you know we're at a point where we're over 100 years of women voting. We can see also how powerful that has become. There are so many reasons why it's important to see and come together with influencers, the new community organizers, the new power players online, to ensure that we're building the strongest power map we can, especially in this critical time. So just what makes an influencer? What are the things? And you'll see here, I actually have borrowed, we have one of our partners is Upfluence, which is one of the leading influencer networks that I talked about, that is mostly used by corporations and businesses. So I'm borrowing some slides from my friend Paul Kahn over at Upfluence. So you'll see that. But I work together with him on these, and I think that they're still really important and powerful. So just back to the three R's. What makes an influencer is either at least one of these things, and sometimes, more than one, two to three. So, first is reach, just sheer number of people. How many people can this person actually reach through, one platform or across the many platforms where they're active? But sometimes relevance is more important. You know, Having someone like Kim Kardashian talk about paid leave, versus someone who is an HR director at a major corporation, that person has much more relevant experience and may still have, if it's not a big following as big as, say, Kim Kardashian, who has a lot of people, it's relevant. She or he is talking to a lot of other people, in HR, to get them excited, about, for example, making sure, people have paid leave when they need it. So, that credibility with the audience sometimes is as important or more important than the sheer number of people they can reach. And then, of course, resonance. You know, does that person, you can have a lot of followers, and this is true of a lot of the what we'll call the mega influencers, the superstars. You can have a lot of followers, but not necessarily a lot of engagement, wherein someone posts something and a lot of people start to share it, they talk about it, they comment on it. That's really important, because that's when you're really getting that network effect, right? Where people, and look, during the 2016 election, the forces of the conservatives used this very well. They understood with precision, how important engagement over numbers was, in terms of the network effect and reaching more people. So these are important things to keep in mind. So what are some examples of influencers, just by the types? And there are more types. There are, of course, sub brands, sub levels of these, but these are some of the big. And you'll notice that just about all of these are in the professional, they're in the uh, corporate arena. And that's because, again, the leaders in influencer engagement and marketing are not, unfortunately, the causes and campaign sector, even though you would think that would be a natural fit. It's actually the corporation. So you've got a Justin Bieber, not just I mean, he's not just an entertainer and an artist. He's, a corporation connected to a whole bunch of other corporations. He's got a lot of followers. Then, of course, you've got your trendsetters. Fashion is actually a huge deal in, online, particularly on Instagram. So, this Vogue fashion blogger, Giovanna Engelbert, hugely impactful. And again, not just on fashion. We're all well rounded individuals. Giovanna is the kind of person, potentially, she's a mom. She might be interested in the issues of the day. Just because someone is focused on a particular segment or interest doesn't mean they might not be interested in what you're doing and reach a whole other group of people that you wouldn't be able to reach without them. Of course, then you have your experts, lots of different experts and a lot of the, executive directors or, C-suite folks or, spokespeople, advocacy, and activists folks, like they would, from our world, they would be in the expert category of someone who they don't make their living necessarily from, you know, putting out information online via social media. They don't have lots of ads or what we call SponCon, sponsored content, from advertisers. What they're doing is using social media to promote themselves and to promote their ideas and potentially other people's ideas, potentially your ideas. And then you've got your brand advocates. And brand advocates, you probably have people talking about you and your organization, some of whom are influencers that you may not be aware of, who have tens of thousands, hundreds, maybe even millions of followers, who love you and you may or may not be engaged in an active conversation. And that's a real missed opportunity. So, here we have Sasha Boryaskaya, one of the an official Nike creative ambassador. Most likely she was posting about Nike and her love of their products, and they noticed and made her official, started paying her. So this is just a talk about size, and you see the asterisks. Again, size matters, but not that much. Okay. Size should not be the only factor determining which influencer an organization is going to choose to work with. Of course, influencers can be hugely impactful within a small community due to their high conversion and high engagement with their very loyal following. So, I think that in the progressive sphere, you've got a lot of people who are trying to get Mark Ruffalo to tweet something. And, rather than targeting famous influencers who have a lot of people bugging them, consider the rising stars or the people who are most relevant to the communities that are important to you to mobilize. They might not have as large an audience, but they're committed to creating consistent quality content, and they have a very active and engaged audience that they can influence. So let's break this down. So, first, your mega influencers. So, Rihanna would be an example of someone who has a lot of followers, but you can see, her engagement is not necessarily that high. She's not necessarily getting a lot of comments. Maybe she's getting a lot of likes, but she's not getting as many shares as you might think for someone who has that many followers. And what's her motivation? What's the motivation of the mega influencers? Hey, this is absolutely about, corporate marketing for them. It's about, making money, enhancing their brand, just making sure they are as relevant as possible to their particular audience. And of course, if you've got, some mega influencers who are willing to partner with you, that's great. They can definitely help you with just getting sheer impressions, a sheer number of people, to look for, or just, building awareness. However, they can be pretty expensive. And, when you talk about resonance, right? Like, is this person really able to influence other people's behavior? mega influencers actually tend not to be as resonant as you might think. Then you've got your macro influencers. These are people like experts, your gurus, executives, maybe super activists. And here's a great example. I love her. It's Queen Work. She is a Black Lives Matter activist. She is also an environmentalist. She comes up first in some networks as someone who is very influential around climate. And she has 60,000 followers, just about 60,000 followers, with an almost 30% engagement rate, meaning when she posts something, 30% of her audience is in some way engaging with her with that content. That's pretty amazing. If you look at your data, how many followers you have and how much engagement you have, she's doing something that's working. And, depending on, what the issues that you're working on, Queen Work could be a really important partner. As you can see, uh their motivation can be money, it can be fame, but it can also be passion. It can also be, you know, doing something that's really important in this time, that where there are a lot of issues that many people care about. They are amazing for building awareness, creating more engagement, but also potentially bringing people in. And they have actually quite a lot of resonance. But then let's turn to what are often called micro influencers or nano influencers. And these can be, brand fans, your stands, activists who might not be your super activists, but they're out there, they're community leaders within their small community. They might be parents. A lot of parents fall, and the parent community is huge online and very complex. Can talk about that later, the mama sphere. But and also artists. There are a lot of artists in this category as well, of all different kinds. And these are folks who might have, anywhere from 500 to 10,000 followers. They can have really strong engagement rates because again, they are reaching, a very narrow group of people, or who are interested in exactly the same things that they're interested in. A lot of them, they love to get VIP treatment. Partnering with someone like you, for example, in your organization, or your candidate, it gives them some brand sheen. Someone else external has recognized them, right? And so there's something for both of you in a partnership wherein you're able to reach new and different people through someone like Walter Kelly, and they get, some additional street cred because of their relationship, with a established organization. So, of course, you can get a lot of conversion. They have a lot of resonance with their audience, but you really need to choose them carefully. That said, having, say, 25 or 50 nano influencers versus one mega influencer, I guarantee you, I know because we do it in our campaigns at Do Big Things, and I've worked with startups, impact startups at the impact seat. You will get much more bang for your buck from the micro and nano influencers. So here's an example. Walter Kelly. He's got about 3,200 followers. He's a TV writer for ABC, and he does stand up shows as a comedian. He's got a strong engagement rate. And how I found him was searching on a network, and I'll show you more about that in a little bit. He's posted on paid leave and sick leave and family leave. He's also posted about Black Lives Matter, voting rights, Georgia turning blue, and so on. He's young. Here's an influence on the rise that if you create a relationship with him now, once he actually has, his own TV show on ABC, this is someone who can really help you and build a relationship with you and his followers over time for impact. So, here are just a couple of misconceptions of influencer marketing and engagement. You know, Look, you don't want a celebrity endorsement. right? That's not what you're trying to get. It's not, sending a product or money, to some kind of a celebrity or an influencer and expecting them to promote their product for you. That's not great. And, it's not just buying outreach, it's not just selling. A lot of people think that that's what it is. It's really about borrowing their reach. You want to research and align with someone who has, a lot of Instagram followers. You can pay them to advertise, or share their message. But we found that, if you find the right influencers, they'll post, even though a lot of them make their money, not all of them, but a lot of them make their money from posting. They'll do it for free because they care as much about the issue as you do. And you want an influencer. Those are the best kinds of influencers, the people who are willing to become long-term advocates for the same issues and candidates that you have. So it's all about building that relationship. So again, these are slides from a corporate a group that Upfluence focuses on corporate influencer marketing. But I think it's important to see how, the other side, a side that sometimes, we are pushing against, to encourage them to, behave in a different way around labor issues, for example. You know, when you are using influencer marketing, you're getting more trust from your audience. People don't trust organizations right now. They don't trust government, as we know. They don't trust companies. They don't even trust organizations necessarily like yours. They trust people they know, their friends and families, and people that they're modeling, like online influencers. You also get, a lot more ROI just from the energy. I know that, nonprofit teams are often really stretched thin. You're going to get a lot of, again, bang for your buck of the time that you spend coordinating and organizing with influencers. And then, of course, you're just going to influence way more people because you have increased reach. And again, because these are people who are really good at dialoguing and engaging online with audiences that are important to you, you can actually learn and borrow some of what they're using, or some of their strategies, some of their language, some of the ways that they're dialoguing, to improve your own content strategy. So, just to sum up this section, your followers, all of the people who are, on your donor list or on your supporter list, the visitors to your website, there are people there who can be influencers that potentially have many, many more followers than you. They must and should be your ambassadors out there to grow your influence. So, how do you find and engage influencers? Well, you'll want to first start out by researching your own mailing list, your donor list, or your action list, your Instagram, Twitter, TikTok if you're doing that, YouTube followers, and the frequent visitors to your homepage. One way to that we recommend looking is, who are the frequent commenters on some of your, either your mailing list or your Instagram followers, for example, your Facebook followers. A lot of those people often end up, because they're engaging, they often end up being influencers. People are following you and they want to help. You can really just start there by examining your social media followers to find influencers among those. Look to see who's retweeting, for example, some of your stuff, and see how many followers they have. How many folks came in, for example, to your website from a given retweet. So here's some more ways to find your online ambassadors and influencers. You want someone ideally, of course, who's already where you want to be. Maybe they're already sharing your actions and content. Maybe they're already attending, your online events or participating in online discussions. But the most important thing is that they feel really comfortable and powerful in creating their own content, either about your work or about issues related to your work on any number of platforms. So, as I mentioned, in your email tool, who's clicking on your email links the most, for example. You can see who those super activists are. Who are the people who have clicked the most in the past month or 6 months, and then narrow that down. You can plug them into these various platforms. You can find their names and see who's an influencer. It takes a little time, but trust me, it will be worth it. Who's liking, sharing, commenting the most? Who's participating with you in, your Slack channels or your Facebook groups or your WhatsApps group, and just who has a lot of followers, on social media and is talking about you. So here are some easy ways, that you can start to, really narrow down this information. So just ask, ask for handles. As people are coming to your website, just ask them to give you, their Instagram or their Twitter handles. I find that this is an underutilized opportunity. I think people have gotten better about asking for people's cell phones so that they can join mobile networks. Same idea, right? And then once you start to get a list from your website of, folks who are giving you their handles, then start to plug them in and find out, who are influencers, and decide maybe you're going to engage with them in a different way besides just sending them an email. But email is really important, as we know. So are they already, on your email? You can actually send out and ask your email list, whether it's your donors or your supporters or both, you can ask them to post and share something that's really important. Then observe who does. Make sure you've got either some kind of tracking pixel or a special hashtag so that you can actually find the folks and track that. But this is one way to actually get to know your audience a little better and see, who are the people who understand that social is a really powerful way to promote an idea, or to build awareness around an important issue, and who are the influencers among them. You can also find influencers on influencer platforms, as we've talked about, and there are a lot of them. There is one in our arena that people have talked about called Main Street One. That's cool, but they're very, very expensive. And I think people in our sphere of causes and campaigns and candidates may not realize that there's actually a lot of competition in terms of, influencer platforms where they have gathered together a big database of influencers from around the country and around the world on any number of issues. So Upfluence, as we mentioned, is a partner that we work with at Do Big Things. We love them. They're fantastic. But there are some other ones. Just noting, Upfluence has a really great Chrome extension that helps with getting data, doing research. So that's a free tool that you can use to start engaging with influencers. But here's some more free tools. Here's InBeat. This is a great one that I really like. It's free. It's a free search. It's a limited part of their database. It's not everything, but even their highest, level of pricing is only $200 a month for their whole database. That's not bad to reach, again, maybe thousands of influencers who can help you and reach magnitudes of exponentially more people. So here, this is a search that I did. This is just two examples of folks when I plugged in the hashtag pro-choice. Here are a couple of top influencers, and you can see we've got here one macro influencer. She has 90,000 followers. It's a lot of people, but less engagement than a male feminist. He's in the category, but he has 10%, almost 11% engagement. So, you have to run the numbers there to really get a sense of, who's actually reaching more people. Clear is another great resource and platform. They have this cool thing called the influencer price box, where you can actually plug in any influencer and see, well, what level are they, and what would they normally charge? Now, again, a lot of influencers, if you build a relationship with them, when it comes to, an important cause, they'll do it for free. But it is important to understand, what the in-kind donation to a certain extent that they're giving you and what they're giving up in order to do a photo, share a photo with you with a caption or a video or a story. So I actually looked myself up. I happen to be an influencer on Twitter, for example. I have over 10,000, almost 11,000 followers. I was just curious, to see, what what it would come up with. So this is actually from my Instagram account, which is Cheryl Conti. And it said, well, Cheryl Conti, we would estimate that, if you gave her 88 bucks or almost 100 bucks, she would do a photo. If you gave her about 150 bucks or 134 here, she'd be willing to do a video. If you gave her almost $200, she might even do a story. And that's true. That's those are about the rates I would probably charge. Not that anyone is actually asking, but these were pretty accurate pricing. So something to look for. So let's talk about winning with influencers. How can you really ally with them to make change? So you want to, engage with them as a human being. Do not send them a press release. Do not send them a boring formulaic email, with a lot of your talking points. You want to engage with them as a human personally. Find common ground with them. For example, if they are uh, working on criminal justice reform and they tweeted or shared something on TikTok about that. Say, hey, we are also interested and are working really hard here at organization to create criminal justice reform, just like you. And then thank them for the work. Hey, thank you, for posting on this, whether they've supported you or just supported the issue in general. And then you want to make it really, really easy for them to help you, because again, as an influencer, a lot of people are pitching them all the time, especially the higher the number of followers, the more people are trying to get at them. So you want to just offer ready-made content. If you're sending them something, they say, "Hey, yes, I'd love to work with you." You want to send them pre-made tweets, easy to grab, photos and or videos and captions. Again, they're going to remix it for their audience. They know their audience better than you, but this gives them a head start, right? And gives them, a place rather than trying to generate it themselves, which look, many influencers would say that they really value hearing from organizations who just know way more about these issues than they do. You're giving them some raw material that they can use to partner with you to really, build that important social change. You can ask them to lead discussions, and create a and even a digital event. You can create Instagram and Facebook stories with them. You should ask them to do it, and then you can post it on your page. It's a win-win for both sides, as I mentioned. Some other ways that you can work with influencers. You can ask them to host a virtual phone bank. They can be volunteer captains. And again, they can create exponentially more reach than you can in terms of pulling people in to do something like this. You can set up a Zoom fundraiser. They can be a special guest, and they can host it, maybe with some entertainment. These have become really popular. It's easy to organize. And again, they can bring their whole community. with them into this, reaching many, many more people than would have joined this fundraiser with just yourselves. They can also help amplify the message with their megaphone. If you start to create and cultivate a group of influencers, they can help you craft the messaging. They can actually help work together with you to make your message even more appealing, sharper, to the various audiences, especially audiences that might be new for your organization that you're reaching out to. Wouldn't you wanna make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and really reaching them with language, with imagery, with videos, with content that's actually going to resonate and move the needle with that audience? So, here's an example. We worked with the NAACP, once, they're new-ish, he's not new anymore, I guess, President, Derek Johnson joined, and, President Johnson had a truly visionary, approach to revitalizing, what is, and very established and old and, at the time, a little bit musty organization that's almost 100 years old. So we worked with them to cultivate him as an in-house influencer. And in part, we did that by researching who were influencers who were already following the NAACP. And you can see here on the left-hand side, you've got, the old logo for the NAACP. And on the right-hand side, this is some of the new imagery, that they're using to appeal to, new generations among the millennials and Zoomers. So working with us, President Johnson's Twitter account first tripled, and today it's now 7 times what it was when we first, worked with them. And they followed our personal, building recommendations. But then the NAACP itself, we also worked with their organizational account. Again, looking for who are the influencers who are already following you, reach out to them, ask for their help. That's gonna build your following as well and help you reach more people. They now have over 650,000 followers, and let me tell you, that is many, many times, where they started. So, how do you cultivate these internal influencers? This is my last section, and then we're gonna have plenty of time, FYI, to talk and, ask questions. Hopefully, I'll have some answers for you. So, what are some best practices in terms of cultivating your influencers internally, whether it's your experts, maybe you have economists on your team or lawyers or, people with powerful personal stories to share that are relevant to the issue. Maybe you're working with a candidate. It could be anything. Really be a human. You know, that human centered approach to, how you're talking about the issue, you know, eh, here's what I would say. Rather than spend a ton of money producing a super slick, really, lots of graphics, lots of different angles, video to try to get your message across, we have found that uh, the most effective messages are often straight to camera, into an iPhone, one person just talking and sharing their story. So much more effective. Free. Any iPhone or Android can do this. The more of that you get up, the better, because you want to encourage, your folks to think of themselves, as a member of your community, as a friend, as a parent, be vulnerable. Show real emotion about the issue. Why is it so important to you? Don't tell me the facts. Tell me why it's important and how it's going to change and improve people's lives. You also want to be intersectional. Try to invest in as many issues as you can where it's relevant to your cause, because again, this often makes for a more compelling narrative. As you saw, Queen Work, she's intersectional. She's interested in both the movement for Black lives and in climate change. And that's true of a lot of the influencers. You want to mirror that as well and provide a holistic approach. Don't be just one note person. Make sure that you are talking about all of the things that your in-house influencer are interested in. I often say pretend as if you're going to lunch. When you have a business lunch with someone or a work lunch with someone or drinks, you don't start off just going straight to the work, right? You talk about your lives. You talk about something that's interesting to you or something that's important to you in your life so that you actually appear to be a human being who's interested in other human beings. Same thing online. And then being a narrator, framing your opponent is so important. It really is about storytelling. You want to get your story out there first. There's so many people who follow the what is it, the queen's, never complain, never explain, uh, when it comes to attacks online, or even just, making sure that their, issue is being told in the right way online. They're like, "Oh, of course, the right people understand." No, they don't. They're looking at all of the other things that are out there, and they're listening to other people. QAnon, great example of that, okay? In which there are people shouting into the void, sharing misinformation in part because, and I'm just going to say it, because the nonprofit organizations that have the information, whose job it is to share the right information, are not posting frequently enough and not reaching the right people in the right places. So, this was one of our clients from this last cycle in 2020. Lieutenant Colonel Amy McGrath bravely went up against Mitch McConnell for the Senate race for Kentucky. She did not win, but at one point she was actually really, really close, within, almost neck and neck. So, and part of how she did that, and with working with us, was, you know, yes, you want to appear authoritative and serious. And I think, in our arena of causes and campaigns, people think that that's the most important thing, is that we're serious about this issue. This is a serious issue. We take it seriously and we're serious expert people. Brr. Yeah, you know what? No one's here for that online. That's not going to get you very far. You want to be fun. That doesn't mean that working on something like the death penalty and eliminating the death penalty, which we have worked on, it's not fun, but using satire, using humor is gonna you're gonna reach 10 times more people, with that kind of vulnerability or humor or eccentricity or even anger, even just emotion. And here, this was one of the videos that McGrath did early on that were really effective, where she's slapping a plane. She's talking about, her experience in the armed forces and how that was relevant, to her leadership style. Same, this is Jenny Wilson, another of our clients who was a Utah Senate candidate. She talked about Star Wars and Jedi, and this was a really, really popular uh, social media post. So we recommend, in our work, that you invest in some new approaches, because look, what do they say? The definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. If you just do the same thing online, especially when it comes to cultivating stronger influence among your spokespeople, you're not going to get very far, are you? So consider pivoting to video. We find that a lot of causes and campaigns are really focused on photos and images just because those are easy, and that's fine. But you want to show and don't tell, and don't make it long. Ideally, 30 seconds or less, at least a minute and a half, but the shorter the better, because it's more powerful. You're actually packing, it forces you to pack in more emotion and simplify your message so that it's really graspable and approachable for anyone. You can encourage your folks to create videos. your it says clients here, sorry, I should have changed that. By clients, what I mean is, your influencers, your community, even micro videos just shot on an iPhone. You know, Video can take a really tough topic, or complex topic and make it a much more engaging. You want to invest in social listening tools. It's really critical in this moment to understand daily who's talking about your issues, who's talking about you, your issues, your spokespeople. And what are they saying? Is it positive or negative? Is it helpful or unhelpful? Do you need to, how are you honing your strategy and shifting it week by week, month by month, day by day, even to keep up with the online conversation that's happening with or without you? And then finally, there's a lot of focus on fundraising, and that's really important. But there are so many other things that you can use to build stronger audience connections and have a really robust digital program. So here are just a few of the folks, with whom we've worked. These are just some examples of videos, that we've done, for clients. And these are some people who haven't been afraid to be human beings in their quest for higher office. They joke, they get transparent about their emotions, they defend themselves with humor and confidence. Sometimes they even bust a move. There's some dances. And it's not just about a gimmick, it's not just clickbait. It's about, again, being human, being your authentic self, and being your authentic self in a sphere that's not used to voices, like theirs or yours potentially. You end up changing the rules just as they did in how politicians or spokespeople and authority figures can look and sound and dress and act and move their agendas forward in this critical time for the future of our country. It can change our national conversation. It is changing our national conversation around the important issues right now in the short term, but it's also changing our norms and the conventions for the long term in ways that I think can be healthy and more inclusive. Of course, we've seen the negative, we've seen the dark side, but there are also so many examples of using this technology for good. So, finally, I'm just going to give you a little advice for communicators. This is Ron Heifetz, and his job is to teach people how to be public leaders at Harvard. And look, this is a tough time, right? We're all making it up as we're going along. There's no roadmap for the unprecedented time in which we're living. It's a complex environment. Everybody's stressed. Okay. You're going to probably make mistakes and maybe some big ones, and that's okay because we need anchors and we need sanctuaries to hear ourselves. And that's why people find influencers. If you're wondering why influencers, why are they trusted more than organizations? It's because influencers serve as an anchor, as a sanctuary for everyday people to hear someone like themselves. And it's needed in this time, just like you need a winter coat if you live in a cold place. So I hope, and this is him saying this, take care of yourselves and each other, create bridges across communities and divides. And I think that that's the key to strong influencer engagement and allyship, creating power together by bridging your community with this rich, active, engaged community that influencers have gathered. It's a way to cross the divide. So, I would love to talk to you some more. I'd love to take your questions. No question is too small. There are no stupid questions, just stupid answers. Hopefully, I can give you some smart answers. But again, I'm really easy to find. I'm not the CEO anymore. We have a new CEO, Henry McKembe. I am now the chair and founder of Do Big Things Today, and also part of the leadership team of the Impact Seat. Any questions, folks? Remember, you need to put it into the chat. I cannot, if you're shouting out your question, I cannot hear you. Well, Molly says, "No question, just thank you. This was very helpful and inspiring." I'm glad, Molly. That's the point. That's I want people to feel and have hope because there is hope. Look, there are more of us than there are of them, okay? They're just shouting louder right now. We can use these tools to reach so many more people for positive change. Any other questions or comments? Has anyone run an influencer campaign that was successful? No? All right. Well, I see that we don't have any questions. Clearly, I've answered all your questions, which is great. But as I said, I'm very, very easy to find online if you'd like to talk after this about, specific challenges that your organization or your candidate or what have you are having, or corporation if that's with a mission-driven initiative, depending on the advocacy that you're doing. I'm so easy to find. Cheryl at dobigthings.com or Cheryl at impactseat.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn. Just type in Cheryl Conti. You'll find me, and I read my messages on LinkedIn every day. You can also find our websites at www.dobigthings.today or www.impactseat.com. With that, we'll end our training for today. And thank you so much for joining me. Good luck out there. I know you're going to be so much more successful now that you're innovating with influencers.